Hello guys and welcome to my channel. In today's video we will be looking at another construct in .NET which can be used for protecting our shared resource. So if you remember, in our last video we talked about how we can synchronize our threads. So we synchronized our increment and decrement threads by using auto reset event. If you haven't seen that video, you can click on the link on the right upper corner somewhere. And today we will be looking at another construct which is called lock, and by using lock we can protect our shared resource, and our shared resource is this shared int. So what basically lock does, actually lock creates a critical section or critical region, or you can call it actually critical scope, and in that scope or region or critical space, or only one thread at a time can enter, and that is guaranteed by the operating system. That is guaranteed if you are in that critical section or in critical region. Only one thread will be in there at a time. That means, and yeah, let's look at, we have to, and to do this or to create or to use the lock, first we have to create an object. You can lock on any object in .NET. So the lock is actually, or let me say the lock actually a syntactical sugar, the lock keyword. Behind the scene it actually gets converted into monitor.enter, and then you have try, catch, and then finally you get the monitor.exit. So it's just a syntactical sugar, so that we don't have to write monitor.enter and try, catch, and we have to manage when we should release the lock and when, and it says for convenient regions. And there is a lot of syntactic sugar in .NET C#, and this is one of them. So to take lock we need an object, and this object can be anything because object is the root class, so you can lock on anything. Remember, we should not lock on value types or the structs, because if you take a lock on a value type, like for example int, then int will be actually boxed, it will be converted to a reference type, it will be allocated on heap, and then you get the reference, and then you will be locking not on your actual int, you will be locking on that temporary object which is created on heap. That means on second time when you try to lock, then you will get another object. So you should never lock on value types. Yeah, so let's see. We create a lock object, private static object obj locker, and we can new it up here, new object. Could have been anything, doesn't matter. Should be unique. It should be unique so that all the threads which want to use that shared resource should lock on that locker object. So our threads are increment and decrement, and our shared resource is shared int, and now we have created this locker. Now we can delete the auto reset event, we don't need it anymore, like this, and then clean it up. Now we can delete this object parameter. What we can do now we say lock, and we have to lock on some kind of object. Our object is locker. This is a critical section. Open curly and close curly braces. So this actually everything inside these pair of curly braces is a critical section, and I like to call it critical scope. It's actually scope. Only one thread at a time can enter here. So if you call this method on different thread at the same time, so he will be locked, he will be blocked. Actually, he will wait here at this line until this lock gets available. That means this will get available then when this thread is finished, and when it comes at this line of code, then the lock becomes available, and then another thread can enter. And since we are trying to protect our shared resource by creating critical section or by taking lock, we have to take the lock on our decrement thread also. And now we can delete this one. And that is it. Lock is a keyword actually, and lock, just to say lock, this is actually like, this is equal to saying monitor dot, actually there is a class in C# which is monitor, where you can say enter and obj, and then it's try finally, and you do everything here, and in finally you do monitor.exit. We can actually use this exit and remove this sugar. Lot of sugar in .NET, too much sugar. So our syntactic sugar, lock construct, lock keyword actually does the same, exactly the same, and we can prove it. Let's see, decrement, increment, yeah, we are good to go. Then we can run our program, and let's see. The output should be 0 always. Should be 0 always, no matter which one is running first. We can decrement, it can be increment, whatever happens or whatever order is. So the order should not matter, and that was the problem with race condition, that the order was changing the output of the program. But now they can run in whatever order they want, they are synchronized, so it doesn't matter actually. So it should always be 0. The output should never change, should be deterministic, and the output is deterministic now. And this is actually lock. So this is actually lock, how you do it. And increment method, what we can actually do, just to make a point, we can use this tool called ILSpy. ILSpy is the free .NET decompiler, and what you can do, that you can look at the intermediate language. So if you know that we have not talked about it in C#, when you have C# code files which are .cs files, they are feeded into the C# compiler, and the C# compiler will actually generate exe or DLL, and in that exe or DLL it will only be intermediate language, which is called IL code, intermediate, Microsoft intermediate language, and that language actually gets compiled into the actual instructions which are executed by the CPU based on which platform you are running, Windows, Mac, Unix, Linux, whatever it is. And this IL code is converted into the machine instructions by another compiler which is called JIT compiler, just in time compiler. Yeah, so now we can look at this. This is our ILSpy program, and we were having which method we put log increment. We have increment, and so we can decompile increment. If you see, there is nothing which is called lock. What's happening here? You look at monitor.enter. We have this load field. We are loading this our object obj locker. Then we are taking lock, and this is our try, catch, and finally. Actually, this is try here. This is try. We are taking the lock, enter, finally, exit. So that's just, I wanted to prove that lock construct or the lock keyword is just a syntactic sugar in .NET. There is nothing, all the keyword, they are just this. There is lot of syntactic sugar in .NET, and one of them is lock. So instead we are writing it in this way, and then we humans can forget to release the lock. It's actually very helpful that we get this automatically. Otherwise we may get very strange bugs in our program. We can get deadlocks or something. Let's say if we were having it like this and there was no finally, and if the code in try block throws an exception, then we are never releasing this lock. And that's why this lock construct with open curly and close curly is very important. It cleans up, or it releases our lock automatically, because finally is guaranteed to be executed. The code in finally block will execute no matter if you get exception or if you don't get exception. So I think that was it with the locks in this video. I hope you learned something in this video. In the next video we will be talking a little bit more about auto reset events and manual reset events. These are the synchronizing constructs in .NET, and we will try to use them and see what's the difference. Yeah, so if you like the video, please do subscribe, write comments, ask questions, and give your inputs. Until the next video, stay safe, stay happy, bye bye.